Now I'm going to open up After Effects, composition, tracing. I'm going to save this into the same folder that I have created for my tracing. I'm going to call it, you should base the name on the project that you're working on, project 01 round 1. So this way, if you have to go back and make edits, you basically have a copy of each of the rounds that you're working on. I'm gonna import file, and I will use the tracing, and you want to make sure to change this to composition retain size and bring it in. And when you double click the composition, you'll see that each of the layers are basically imported as their own individually. So I'm gonna actually now we're gonna do a couple of things. I'm gonna click on these 3 layers and convert them to shape layers. So I'm going to click on the first layer, hold the shift key, click on the last layer, and choose layer create shape from vector layer. Now you'll see that basically all my Illustrator files are still visible, but I don't, I have 2 versions. I have both the Illustrator file and the shape layer file. One thing that I wanted to mention, if you're working with Illustrator files and you don't want to convert them to shape layers, you want to make sure to click these rasterize buttons right here that look like a little star. So it's really important. It doesn't work on the shape layer because shape layer is already rasterized, but if you are working with Illustrator files and you don't want to convert them, you want to make sure to click these 3 styles. So when you enlarge the layers, they don't pixelate. One other thing that I wanted to mention as well, the format of this, the size of your video is not the correct size for viewing on a computer monitor or television set, because as you could see, this is a vertical document, and when you're working on a computer or when we're making animation to be projected on a TV, basically the format is horizontal. So we kind of need to make certain adjustments. So there's a couple of different ways you can do that. Go to composition setting or Command K or Control K if you're working on a PC, and this is basically the size that I have here. So there's a couple of different ways that I can complete my animation. One is that I could leave the settings as it is and animate however I wish to animate. And this composition is basically the finalized animation for project 1 is about 30 seconds. So what you could do is to break the animation down, just like we did with the mannequin exercise, and create maybe 3 10-second smaller animations, just to kind of break down just break your storyboard down and make it easier to control different elements on your page, and also to kind of it's much easier to add complexity when you're working with smaller chunks of animation. And then once you have your 3 10-seconds, you can make one finalized comp at the correct size, which should be horizontal, and then add the 3 comps, just like we did with the mannequin exercise. Add the 3 comps into that one finalized comp. So for now, I'm going to just leave this as it is. And one thing that I wanted to also mention is that remember that you can animate however you want to, you know, you can, change the scale, change the opacity, change the position, and so on. However, the finalized animation has to be like exactly like the poster. So I'm going to show you how you can do that. So we're going to select, and I'm just going to show a position change. So we want to click the first layer, shift select the layers, and press P for position. Make sure your time indicator is in the beginning of your animation. And I'm just going to keyframe the position that I have here. Now I'm going to highlight these 3 keyframes. I'm going to move them to the very end of my composition. Now I'm going to make sure again my keyframe, my timing indicator is in the beginning of my comp, and I'm going to keyframe them again, and maybe I'll just move each one maybe over here, maybe over here, maybe over here. And actually, let me just show you under preferences, under display, you want to make sure all keyframes, motion path, all keyframes are selected, so you can kind of see the path of each. So now that I have these 3 keyframes, you'll see that I can add other attributes. Again, if you want to add another animation, you can just sort of use these arrows to make sure if you want to go to like previous keyframe or next keyframe and so on. You want to use these arrows, they're a lot more effective. Okay, so I have that one. And then again, if you highlight your 3 layers and P, if you hit P, you can change the position. If you hit R, you can hit the rotation. And for this one, I'm gonna maybe, I don't know, just add a little bit of a rotation, maybe right there, maybe a couple. Actually, for this first one, maybe I'll just keyframe them by itself for now. And then if you have all the items highlighted, then you just click the stopwatch on one of them, and basically they're all going to get keyframed. Now I'm going to move to a different place in time and change the rotation maybe to like 3 or something like that. Now as you could see, I'm going to get rotation, and then I'm going to get position change, and then at the very end everything comes together. Of course, you want to make sure the animation is a lot more complex. You can also change the size. Again, if I want to go and highlight the 3, S would stand for scale. I could simply, again, you want to make sure if you're changing each of these attributes, the last keyframe needs to like if I make this really big right now, the end result is going to be rather large. So I want to make sure that so I have the scale at 100%, and at this point you want to grab those keyframes again, move it to the very end of your animation, so it's kind of almost flipped, and then we come back to the beginning, maybe somewhere in the middle actually, and then I can just do like 500 or whatever. And maybe in the beginning, so you can just you have the rotation, then you have the scale change, and then at the very end again you see that everything ends up in the finalized artwork position and size and so on. So once we have that, let's say you're happy with this, whatever animation you're creating, you want to make a new comp. And again, this one, we want to make sure to choose the correct ratio, 720. And this one, I'm going to make sure this is 30 seconds. So now all I have to do, and then you want to name it so that you know what exactly you're doing. Project 01, round 01, 1280, so you know the size. And then so this is the animation we kind of created. I'm going to double click my layer and grab this animation in here, and again you can see that then at this point you can possibly make this bigger, make it smaller. And if you have other, remember this is only 10 seconds, maybe you have 3 other segments of your storyboard that you end up adding to what you're doing here. And also one other thing I want to quickly show you is just making sure you're naming your layers correctly. So here it would be project 01, round 1, 10 sec, right? And then, or it just probably want to be comp 1, but remember you're probably going to have like 3 comps. And also just wanted to show you that if you open up this folder, the tracing 2 folder, you'll see the individual Illustrator layers saved out for you. So this is how you trace a layer in Illustrator, and you bring your files into After Effects individually, and you animating them according to your selected artwork.